Hello YouTube. I'm going to talk about Proverbs 29 verse 1. He who remains stiff-necked even after many corrections will be suddenly destroyed, and that without remedy. It's a pretty scary verse. It means that you're either going to die suddenly or you're going to experience a permanent loss of sanity or something really drastic, and God's not going to restore you. It's not like Nebuchadnezzar, who basically lost his mind and lived like a wild animal for 7 years and then God restored him. It is like a piece of pottery being completely smashed up until it is completely like ground to powder, reduced to tiny shards. No way to repair. I got this analogy from another YouTuber. I can't remember his name. I think it's very apt. I completely agree with it. Now, the story I'm going to relate now is true in its broad strokes, but obviously details have been changed. So, back in 2018 March, a new guy joined my cell group. Let's call this new guy N. Right? Regular guy, I think early 30s, working. So, no big deal. And it's only until July 2018, right? Another cell member, let's call this cell member, another cell member P, let's call this guy P, came to me and asked for my help regarding N. P told me that he had received a dream and or a vision from God. I can't remember. Basically, the gist of it was that N had promised something to God, but kept delaying its fulfillment for at least 2 or 3 times. And the message was that God wanted him to fulfill his promise ASAP, or he'll get fired from his job, lose his job. So I asked, how did N react? He said N was basically very dismissive, and I believe the cell leader had already spoken to N regarding, I assume, telling him the right thing to do, which is to test the spirits. All right, don't dismiss it, but don't completely believe it either. Pray to God to confirm whether it is from him or not. Right? That to me is that simple. A quick prayer from God and you're covered. So apparently he ignored P's warning and doesn't want to test the spirits, right? Even when the cell leader spoke to him. So I said, okay, fine, I can try again, no problem. So I spoke to N. He did confirm, right? He did make a promise to God and he did postpone it at least 2 or 3 times. I'm not sure. Can't remember already. Doesn't matter. Okay? So basically he said, I already decided when I'm going to fulfill the promise. I already made my schedule and my plan. I will fulfill it as planned. I'm not going to move the schedule up. Okay? He didn't test the spirits. He admitted as such. He knew that you should test the spirits. He admitted that he knew that you should test the spirits. There is the scripture. Okay, I don't think we quote the scripture, but he knew the principle. Okay, and in 2018, I think he was at least a 2.5 year, almost 3 year Christian already, if I'm not wrong. So he has no excuse, and he's a grown man. He's not 12. He's not even like 18. He's a grown man of 30 years plus. So I say, okay, fine, you want to have this attitude? Okay, I done my part as a Christian brother. I warned you, I reminded you the right thing to do. Okay, so I completely just, okay, I'll let it go. So I think early November, N was fired from his job. Not a retrenchment exercise, not let go because the company was in trouble, downsizing, and he was let go because he was the most junior. No, he was fired. The company wasn't downsizing. In fact, the company is still doing well amidst the COVID economic downturn, even now, in April 2021. He sort of disappeared from cell for 1 month plus, and then he reappeared. I didn't needle him. I didn't even remind him. I just assumed that he must have repented of it. I think by the time he returned to cell, he had already fulfilled the promise to God. I can't remember exactly when also, but doesn't matter. So he left cell in June 2019, and I kept in contact with him somewhat via WhatsApp, social media, and I spoke to him in October 2019. I asked him how his job search was, and he said not successful, somehow or other he would just lose out to another candidate. And I reminded him, I know that you have already fulfilled your promise to God, but did you confess you dismissing a warning made in the Lord's name without consulting him as sin? And his answer was no. Somehow or other he has convinced himself that he did not sin, even though he knew of the scriptural principle to test the spirits. Somehow or other he has convinced himself he has not sinned. I said, okay, you're being very stubborn. Okay, if you don't confess your sin, it's very clearly written in Proverbs that a person who conceals his sin will not prosper, but he who confesses his sin and renounces them, or forsakes them, will be shown mercy. And he wasn't happy. He would okay, fine, I leave you alone. You're a grown man of 30 plus. You know what you're doing. I reminded you. Okay. December 2020, I think shortly after Christmas, I caught up with him again. And again, his attitude was the same. Still out of a job. So I reminded him twice. He must confess his sin. He refused. The cell leader did remind him before he was fired. And so did I back in 2018. He had numerous warnings about not testing the spirits, and yet he persists in not testing the spirits. And even after he lost his job, just as P's warning predicted, he's still not repentant. He has been corrected a few times. Circumstances have been quite harsh on him, and still he's like that. Does Proverbs 29 verse 1 apply to him? I don't know. What is corrected many times? 7 times? 8 times? I don't know. Well, I'm not going to remind him to confess his sin anymore. Okay, I mean, if he chit-chat with me on social media and WhatsApp, I don't mind, but I'm not going to remind him. I reminded him twice already. I'm going to leave him alone. I have been praying for him quite regularly over the couple of 1 year, but I think I'm going to stop soon. Hopefully, he repents, because the cost to him might be very, very great. Okay, bye YouTube.